Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the BB-Scho. I'm your host, Beebs. Once again, joined by my co-host, Chen. We got a lot on the docket today. Well, I kind of lied. A little bit shorter docket, Pro Bowl week. Not much to preview, obviously, but we'll be recapping championship weekend, talking a little about Brady, Sean Payton signing to the Broncos, and maybe a shorter episode. But before we get to any of that, how you doing today, man?
Doing all right. It's a
Ah,
little cold. A little cold. It's
yeah.
not even in the teens right here. So
Yikes.
pretty sure you guys are sitting fairly higher. If I'm taking
Yeah,
the over under.
yeah.
Um
We had a pretty crummy day. It rained all day, but it was
yeah,
rain, not snow. So
I was about to say I would take that over the piles of snow in my alley. But
yeah,
no, nonetheless, we can just dive right into the I will say this. One of the championship games was good. Um we'll we'll kind of just not to say breeze through the first one, but
I have a couple. I mean, we don't have to breeze through because I do have a couple thoughts at least.
yeah, and I'd like to hear them because 31-7 is like a little deceiving. I mean, things kind of went downhill once the 49ers were down to their fourth, and then eventually just
Yeah,
McCaffrey
I mean,
slash
it
Brock
was a bad
Purdy.
game. I'm not saying it wasn't a
Yeah.
good game, or it was a good game. Um, Look, I think my takeaway from this is, and it was very validating because I've said this. Those people who say anybody can succeed in Shanahan's system. Purdy's just a product of everyone great around him. Uh, I don't think that's true, and I think that was shown in this game. Not to say that it isn't a great system. Like it's partially true, but the reality is Josh Johnson's like a 13-year vet. He's like a Chase Daniel type backup quarterback.
Oh, okay. Whoa. This is where I was hoping you wouldn't go.
What
This
are you
guy played
saying?
for like the Sea Dragons, bro, and is on like two, three teams a year. He's like
Look,
borderline,
look,
barely a
man,
quarterback.
look, man.
Like,
I'm comparing. It'd be one thing if it was Trey Lance, the third overall pick, who's supposed to be more talented. We're talking about Mr. Irrelevant, right? I'm
yeah,
comparing him to that.
yeah,
There hasn't been another Mr. Irrelevant ever who's done ever played in a game. I swear, I'm sure there is, but like you get my point, right? He was the first one to ever throw a touchdown. I'm pretty sure. Um,
oh yeah,
like all these random stats that happened when he first took over. I can't remember all the Instagram posts now, but all I'm saying is what I've been saying the whole time that while he is in a great situation, right? We needed to like give this guy some credit for what he was doing. Everybody was just taking what he was doing and like, oh, anybody could do it. I could go out there and play quarterback. It's like, no, you still have to throw the ball. You
yeah.
still have to
That's
know the
not
offense,
true.
read the
Yeah,
defense, right? And a 13-year old, that sounds weird, but 13-year vet 13-year vet gets
Carl
in there,
Malone.
and I'm not saying it wasn't a great, like a poor situation, NFC Championship, all this stuff, but like Purdy did the same thing against the Dolphins and was completely different. Higher stakes for Josh Johnson, yes, but uh, look, give the guy some credit because you know, people would say, "Oh, you put him on the Jets, he looks just as good, just as bad as Zach Wilson." I think I disagree. I think he's a better quarterback than Zach Wilson, right? And I could go down the line of other places where I think he would succeed.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like push back on that. Like Brock Purdy has talent. I think I sit very like in the in between of he definitely can play. He reminds me of Matt Castle. I think is really the best way to put it. Like Matt Castle won 11-5 with the Patriots. He actually did decent with like the Chiefs, and then kind of just fell off one year for some unknown reason. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Brock Purdy, but I think everyone would agree. I mean, Matt Castle was a stable veteran and had a couple good seasons. Like he's a competent quarterback. And basically, what I was saying is, I think any competent quarterback like in that system is like the 49ers will be a good team. I think like Jimmy Garoppolo is a prime example of that. I think a lot of people think he's good, but like we all kind of hold him in that
See,
high
I would
backup
probably
regard.
say that I think that Purdy is better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, he's played like it. Like he's
Yeah,
played way better. And that's where it's like,
like this guy should be a starter somewhere next year. I
Oh,
like
absolutely.
if he
I
was a
think it's
free
probably
agent.
going to be San Fran. Honestly, with you,
I don't
I
know.
think the reason Tom Brady retired is I think probably San Fran was the likely destination after the Lance injury, after, they knew Garoppolo was going to go out. They traded for Christian McCaffrey. I'm assuming that was to be aggressive. And, then Brock Purdy comes in, it kind of changes everything because I'm not saying Brock Purdy is Tom Brady, but I would much rather have Brock Purdy going forward than Tom Brady for a year or two,
I got to be
even
honest.
three.
I think Trey Lance starts week one next year.
Yeah, I totally
I
disagree. He's
think
getting
they go
traded.
in. I think they go into
He's
a
getting
camp
moved.
battle. I think they go into a battle during training camp, and the loser probably does get moved or not. They've shown that they won't do that when they have two good quarterbacks. But I think he's going to win. I think what does Brock Purdy bring to the table that Trey Lance doesn't? And then Trey
Oh,
Lance brings the run game.
yeah, but that's not the issue. I think the biggest thing is we saw it with Trey Lance could have played, and Kyle Shanahan's like, no, like I'm sticking with Jimmy G. And
When was that?
since he's been drafted, he's been hurt since he's been drafted.
Well, I mean, he sat his rookie year, which was the plan,
Yeah.
and then he did play last year. Like he started like 4 or 5 games when Garoppolo got
Mm,
hurt, and then this year he was the guy, and then he
yeah.
got hurt in week one. So I don't really get like
Because I don't think if they were fully devoted to Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo's even in the picture. Is really what I'm trying to say. I think Kyle Shanahan has his
well,
guys he
Garoppolo
likes.
wasn't, but that's what I'm trying to where I'm confused because he wasn't in the picture this year, and they ran him out of
Yeah,
town and had
but
to
like
bring him
previous
back.
seasons, like if Trey Lance was like this like wow guy, like we love him, like you'd play
This
him
was his second
probably
year,
like
wasn't
right
it?
away.
I'm pretty sure this was his second
This
season.
is this is isn't it your going
No, he
into
came in. This is his second year.
it's like
We're both
second year.
off by
So
we're
yeah, I'm
both
saying
off
yeah,
by
either way, it's like the
no, you're
first
no. They
he's a
brought
number
him
three
in,
pick.
they
Trevor
drafted
Lawrence
him, said
played,
we're gonna
Zach
sit him
Wilson
for
played,
yeah,
and
and we've
Trey
had
Lance
many a
just sits.
discussion on this podcast about why we don't think that works. Patrick Mahomes didn't play his rookie year. Your argument is
Yeah.
completely mute.
Well,
Like
Peyton
they
Manning and
brought him
Trevor
in,
Lawrence are working.
wanted to sit him for a year, and then gave him the keys this year, and he got hurt.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I don't think it's like crazy impressive what he's done. I think everything Purdy done has been what they could have best hoped for Lance. And I just don't see why Shanahan is going to move off a guy that he's had success with. I mean, they were literally a torn UCL injury away from competing for the Super Bowl. I don't know why you would go into this offseason and be like, yeah, let's roll the dice with Trey Lance. I
No,
don't
I think
see
they
it. If
go
you
in.
would have
I
rolled
think
it right
well, no. What
away,
I
I
said
don't
was I think
think.
they go into training camp and have a QB battle, and I think Trey Lance wins. That's what I said. I don't
Yeah, and
think
I
that
just don't. I
decision.
don't even
I
think it's
don't
going to
think
go to
that.
that.
I think you can agree with this. There's no way they're making that decision until August.
No, I actually am going to disagree with that. I think they probably already made it in the locker room. I think the players, like I even saw reports that the players are all in on Purdy. You love like Kittle. You can see the sideline interactions. They're not going to go away from this guy. I just don't. Even that when Jimmy G came back, I think that is where I was kind of headed. When he came back this year, when Trey Lance got hurt, there was like notable morale boost. Like that was noted. People were like, oh, like they were happy for him. And we both like Jimmy G's not this like amazing dude. It's just the players play better with him, and they played a lot better with Purdy. And when Lance, they what, the 49ers started 3-3. I'm not
Got
saying
hurt
all that
in
is on
week
Trey
two,
Lance.
bro.
And I know we got hurt in week two, but they lost to the Bears in week one. And like I haven't seen anything crazy good.
He
And
hasn't
Brock Purdy has been
played, man.
but
Like
Brock
Purdy
Purdy has
has
been good
literally
from the
played
jump. Why
poorly
would you move off a guy
because
that
you
has literally
invested
done no
all these
wrong?
picks into this guy.
Right. And Shanahan's not going to care. He's not the GM. It
Who has a
doesn't matter
higher
how many
Who
picks.
has a higher trade value right now, Purdy or Lance?
It they're not going to trade Brock Purdy, bro. You know how many players in that
Why not?
locker room
If
would
they're going to trade the guy they drafted 2 years ago, third overall after trading up to get him, why would they not trade the guy that they just got the biggest dime in the rough since Tom
boy,
Brady?
I would love if you said this to like George Kittle, any 49ers fan,
What,
like
are
people
you in the
that
locker room, bro? Like, what do you mean? Like, you're just
I'm just
no
observing.
speculation.
This is purely observation and just logic of if you're seeing something work, like you literally get almost to the Super Bowl,
I'm not
why would you move off
disagreeing.
that? I don't know
Because
why they would.
all I said, I didn't say that they were going to move off of him this offseason. I said he was going to lose the QB
Yeah, you
competition
did.
next fall. He's going to be on the
Yeah,
roster next fall, and if he gets traded, it'll be after training camp.
yeah. That's I don't. What's the like
You
hold up?
said you said the opposite.
You basically said one of these guys is gonna go. Is
I
what you're
said
saying,
I think Trey Lance wins a QB comp next year, and the loser
right?
likely gets traded. But I also said that they've kept two competent quarterbacks around before in case of injury, so
And I think it would be
it worked
smart
out
to
for
move
them.
Lance now before he loses that battle.
See,
Let
I
alone
don't
just
think they're gonna
it's.
do that
I think there's either just gonna hand it to Purdy or it's they're gonna have a battle and Purdy's just gonna keep
I
it,
think, and you
and
would agree
then
with
Lance's
this.
value goes down even more.
I
I
think you
just
would agree with this. It would be moronically stupid for them to trade either one of them right now, based on the fact that they had three quarterbacks get hurt this year. And it's the reason they didn't go to the Super Bowl. So the reality is, I think they're both going to be on the roster next year. Jimmy G will go,
oh well,
but
they'll
one of them is going to be backing up the other one on the rookie deal, and
ooh,
they'll make
yeah,
the
the
decision
rookie. I think the
after.
rookie deal is a big thing too. That's the amount you're paying Brock Purdy. And like I'm not saying Lance is like getting 50 million, but you don't have to worry about really your quarterback financial for the next 2 or 3 years. I don't know how much a late round contract like in terms of years is. I know it's not 5, but I just
I
don't
just
see
disagree,
it.
man. I
I
just
just
don't
don't
see
see
them.
why you would
If
go with the
Lance
question
comes,
mark,
because
especially when you haven't seen anything
no,
crazy good so far. I know it's been a small sample size, but we've had a small sample size with Purdy, and he has not missed a beat. I just don't know why you'd move off a guy like that.
because
I don't
well,
see
I
a
don't know
reason
why,
to.
but you're saying you'd move up. You're saying I'm saying the exact same thing you're saying, but I'm also saying it for Lance.
You're saying Lance is going to start week 1. You're saying he's going to win the training
Yes,
camp
because I
battle.
think they're
I
going to
don't
go
think
to a
that's going to
training
happen.
camp battle. I'm predicting he wins that QB battle. You're predicting Purdy wins
That's
that
fair.
QB battle,
Yeah, and I
right?
think this is a
But
very
you're
poor
also
prediction.
saying that you think that they should trade Trey Lance right now, which I don't think they'll. There's no chance
I
that's going to
did
happen.
no. I just think he needs to be moved. Like just plain and simple. Like he needs to be the guy that you move him. And I would think sooner rather than later, especially if you go in a training camp with Hunter and that Purdy.
Yeah,
Because think about it,
so
if he goes
but
in as the
but
backup and then they notice, oh, so they picked Purdy over this guy, like they didn't really like the talent, you're just losing more trade value.
I well, I think the opposite's going to happen at training camp, so I can see why we disagree. But
That's fair, man.
I
I'm gonna
mean,
go with the numbers on this.
time will tell, Mr. Davis Mills, but we will.
Bro, if you really want to give me a reason other than you just like Trey Lance,
I just
other than like
explained it
the
to you. He brings more value in the run game and gives you everything Purdy does in the pass game.
in okay, yeah, sure, more value in the run game.
What's so funny about that?
It's just like I just
This is
more
how the
value in
NFL
the running
works.
game from a guy when
You
Brock
don't
Purdy is
invest
going
a
like
third
three
overall.
touchdowns. No, yeah, it doesn't.
I'm
Zach
not
Wilson.
discrediting
They
Purdy. I
invested
was the
the
biggest
second. They
fan.
invested the second pick, and they're moving off like they're looking for Rodgers.
Who?
The Jets. Zach Wilson was the second overall
That's
pick.
because that's completely different. Trey Lance hasn't proven to be a bust or a hit yet. That's why you still have this looming question mark that you need to answer.
Yeah, I
Like
just think
he
that's a
hasn't.
poor GM choice to just because we wasted this capital, we have to play him, especially when we have a
No,
guy
you have
that's
to give him a
clearly shown he's better.
chance. That's what I'm saying. All I'm saying is they have to give Trey Lance a chance next year.
I don't think they have to do anything, man.
Okay, then
It's same
trade.
thing with Bledsoe. You're gonna give Bledsoe a chance to come back. No, they stuck with Brady.
Yeah,
This is the same
okay, that's
thing.
because they won the Super Bowl.
Right. If you get that close, I don't see why you would, man. I just don't.
That
And
close,
especially
they
the way
got blown
Shanahan
out.
is, because Brock Purdy got hurt and they put in a running quarterback and it did
Look,
nothing.
let's get to the other half of the game then, because I think, and we'll talk about this. I know you're going to pick the Chiefs next week, but the
Hmm.
Eagles, they hung 31 on the league's best defense, or a top three defense, and there was nobody hurt.
Yeah. I mean it was good. Like they were able to move the ball. Do you think 49ers fumbling twice and the morale thing has to be, in there. Um I'm not gonna say I didn't like what I saw from the Eagles, but I still just I want to see them in a position they haven't been in, and that's the Chiefs going up 14-0 right away. and having them
I
go into
don't
pass
think
heavy situations.
I just in all the games they've played this year with Jalen Hurts, they all look so identical. They're just dominant.
Exactly.
Every team they play,
Exactly.
they dominate, except for like that one time against the Texans where they rallied late, right? But like, I, they're
And the
so
Colts.
dominant, and like I think everybody is getting so like fancy, but not like fancy. Like, yes, if there's people who can like the Chiefs are probably one of the best teams they're going to play all year, especially because the Niners weren't full strength when they played them. But like, I'm not that sold on the Chiefs defense being anywhere close to the Eagles defense, and I am sold on the Eagles offense being close to the Chiefs offense. Does that make sense? Like the Eagles have
It's
dominated
valid. I
every
just
team they've played. Their offense has dominated with Hurts, obviously, but has dominated every team they've played this year. And it's just like I just don't see that stopping. Like I don't know who's favored either. I
I
don't.
mean, no one, you didn't see the Bengals stopping though either.
What are you saying?
I'm saying in
No,
the
I'm not
NFL,
saying
you
that
got
as
to
a shoe
expect the
in. No,
unexpected.
no,
Like,
the Chiefs could very easily win this game, but like that, this is not me going out on a limb and saying they're going to blow out the Chiefs. I honestly, I always hope for a good Super Bowl, right? Like who doesn't?
yeah,
But
please.
I thought last year's was decent.
Yeah, no, it was fine. It was fine. I just immediately you say that and like Buccaneers Chiefs could have been really good. And that was 31-9. Like I could go down the
I got
list,
it.
man.
Here's
Seahawks
a question for you.
Broncos.
Here's a question for you. What are we saying about Patrick Mahomes if he loses this one? I think he's got a
Mm,
lot more on the line than a lot of people are realizing right now. We want to talk like legacy.
mm, I'm not. He's 1-3 in Super Bowls. He's been in the AFC Championship every time he starts. Uh,
So, okay, this
if people
brings
really want to bash that, sure, but like the Chiefs clearly have a less talented roster. And part of that is because of Mahomes' mega contract, but it's not, I'm not looking at him sideways, being like, oh, this is, Peyton Manning situation all over again. One, Peyton Manning's still one of the top five QBs of all time. Two, Mahomes is like 26. Like
so
it's,
let me
I,
rephrase it though, like in the sense of like, I'll just pose this question then. Can he catch Brady?
I, boy,
Not just not in the GOAT debate, not in Super Bowls or anything, but like in the GOAT debate, what do you think he would need to do to catch Brady? I'm assuming Brady's your GOAT, so if you have a different
yeah, well, and
you can
he's
voice that
already,
now.
the problem is he's already gonna have that knock of he lost to Brady. So now even if they tie, they're gonna end up with the people on the spectrum of, well, Brady beat him. So are we gonna say that Mahomes has to get 8?
I
And
think
like
it
I don't
like
even know if that's
realistically,
I don't know if we're gonna see that
there's a
again,
couple
man.
things that like could help Mahomes. One, he gets that extra game in the regular season. So when it comes to like those career total numbers towards the back, assuming he plays for a long time, uh, that could help him. I think for him to catch Brady, he's gonna have to win. He's gonna have to break Peyton Manning or tie Peyton Manning's MVP record to like be in the conversation. And then also pair that with like at least three or four. You got to pass Montana in Super Bowls too, or tie Montana.
Yeah, right,
If he can
right.
get the most MVPs and the second most Super Bowls and be close in the career total, like yards and touchdowns and the interception ratio and all that stuff, I think he's got a shot.
No, it's fair.
But I think
I'm
it's a
definitely
really uphill
curious.
battle because he lost to on the big stage to Brady.
Right. And I also think it depends on who you ask. Because there's like the illogical Brady haters that I'm not gonna completely delve into. All right, there's those people that think he basically was Josh Johnson in Belichick's system and just coasted all those games.
Hey, we
Um,
could do a breakdown of
I
his
know we could really do a breakdown, and
beneficiary.
I do think
I think he's one of the
he's
luckiest men ever to live the face of the planet.
agreed. I like
That does not
logistically
mean he's
speaking,
not
like
the GOAT.
yeah, like the seven I just that many Super Bowls. Yeah, there's some luck involved, but a lot of that is skill as well. Even the one they lost, he threw for 500 yards. Like there's There's just a lot. And he's had so many, he's won 10-3, and then you lose putting up performances like that. So I know there's a lot of variables. But the bottom line is, what are people going to value? And I think a lot of people are going to look at Mahomes in the Rodgers light of, he was more talented as an athlete in terms of arm talent. Um, but is he able to sustain that longevity? He's already on like a good pace. The fact we're talking about it right now, and he's 26, going into his third Super Bowl. He's definitely on track.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it's
in
such a
terms of
crazy career to
that
mimic.
Rodgers conversation, I mean, he's already got the one ring and he's made it back, right? So I think to
Yeah.
pass Rodgers all time, you just have to have more of a resume,
Oh,
which
I'm
he'll
not.
get
I think he
there. Like
passes Rodgers.
I think
I'm
he
just thinking from a
does.
legacy. It's like, what are people going to look at? Like, are they going to look at his talent? And if he gets like 3 rings, has a lot of MVP awards, while he's in Brady's shoes, he would have been better. Is that the argument that's going to be made? Maybe, but even then, it's very difficult to put a guy over someone who has pretty much every record in the book, the most Super Bowl wins of all time.
Yeah.
For anyone to catch that, I mean, look at like Jerry Rice. Like, no one thought, well, really receiving wise, he's never going to be caught, but he was
No,
kind
I
of like
mean
the NFL
before
GOAT for a long time.
I'll say
And even
that
right now, it's
before.
still crazy.
Well, let me ask you this question because, and I'll answer it first. But like, when did Brady become the undisputed goat to you? Like, when did he pass that? Like, get into that conversation? Because for me, it was in the Atlanta Super Bowl. That was when I like just said because I was a big Peyton Manning fan, and after that, I remember literally getting in the car to go home, and I was just like looking at the ground, and I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
I got nothing, man. Like this guy's he's unreal. Like what do I even say, right? And then he won two more after that. So
Yeah, yeah.
where was that point for you? Because I would have even after Atlanta, I think you could have made a case, not for Peyton, but definitely for Jerry Rice for a long time. But then I think the Buccaneers Super Bowl might have knocked Jerry Rice out of that conversation.
Well, yeah, I don't I hold Rice in a high regard. Um,
So do I.
because I guess
I think he's the second greatest football player of all time. I'll say that.
yeah, yeah. Oh boy. But that's because I do take things a little bit like, yeah, Joe Montana throwing to you. But again, he's able to make it work with Steve Young. I understand Steve Young was good as well, but he had sustained success. I think with Brady, he made it work with, yes, Belichick was the constant, but there was a lot of different guys along the way. And so he already had what, 3 Super Bowls in after 2004, right?
Yeah.
And then there was the 2007, 2011, the Giants. Yeah, that sucks. I think that a lot of people see that as like a legacy thing that hurts him, but 2007 was like one of the best regular seasons we've seen, up there with Peyton Manning's of, in
I
terms
think
of
what hurts
performance.
specifically about 2007, what hurts Brady's legacy is more so not the fact that he didn't win the Super Bowl and he has a Super Bowl loss, but the opportunity cost of saying he was on the first team to ever go like whatever 20-0 or 19-0, whatever it would have been.
Yeah,
That
that would have been
undefeated
so
season.
huge.
The opportunity cost of that is what hurts more than the
Yeah,
fact that he just had another Super Bowl loss, right? Like
because if he hits that, like, it's probably him over Manning at that point, like where they were at their careers. And ever since that, and Peyton, was able to get one, got back to one. I know they lost with the Saints, and then he obviously wins with the Broncos. I'm really, when I'm just like trying to follow his timeline, I almost have to kind of sit. I didn't want to piggyback off, the Falcons Super Bowl, but
no, I mean
that's
that's the most
kind of like
popular like moment that
where
people.
it is. Like,
Yeah,
after that moment, it was pretty much undisputed.
yeah,
And like, if you were kind of just a hater, and I'd really have to hear out the argument.
yeah. I mean,
But
getting number five, right? That would have been his fifth. You could have made a case that the other four were like, he got help. You know what I'm saying? Like Vinatieri won
mhm.
two of them things. I guess they beat the Eagles pretty handed, like 10 points or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
none of them were like one, and then Malcolm Butler, right? So none of them were like his win. But then when you get to that one, it's like you look at you're down 28-3, right? And all the pressure's on him. He delivers one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Super Bowl performance of all time. And then follows it up by winning another, two more rings. It's
Right.
it's
Right.
it's so like just a crazy run, and then he blows out Mahomes, which isn't his doing. He doesn't play defense, but yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I mean, is there anybody else who you think has, we talk about this in basketball, but anybody else in the league right now who's got a chance to catch him?
Not visibly right now. No. That's such a long career path too. I don't see another quarterback really going for that long. I understand technology and whatever, but Brady was just different. Like he just purely cared about football. It was really nothing else.
He really
And
has completely inflated what we think of Super Bowls, because there was a time not too long ago when winning two was like top 10 automatically. Like, you know what I'm
yeah, it was
saying?
a big
Like,
deal. Like
it was
Eli
like,
Manning was held in like crazy. I think that actually him winning so many probably hurts like Eli Manning's legacy. Ben Roethlisberger is another guy that comes to mind. Like,
dude, guys like Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers have won each. Manning lucked in to his second, right? So then you would have
mm,
had Manning with one.
yeah,
And Roethlisberger had two, but did he? Yeah, he had two.
yeah.
But
It was just I was saying like
yeah, I was
Eli
thinking of guys
Roethlisberger.
that
They have
have,
more rings, but like it
like,
doesn't.
we think about, like, okay, like we set the standard now for like what does Mahomes need to do to catch Brady, right? Oh, he's got to win at least four. It's like that's ludicrous
Yeah,
when you really think about it, man. Like that's
it's
ludicrous,
very
but that's
true.
just like the way it's similar to what happened in basketball. And I guess this wasn't Michael's doing. It was more so like Bill Russell and then Larry and Magic, right? Where it's like you got to win multiple to be in that convo, right? So now
Man,
it's
Bill
like,
Russell. That's a story for another day.
but yeah,
Those
like you,
championships get diluted when you realize there's only 8 teams.
they do for sure, but like you get my point though, where it's like basketball has there's like I guess a level of a value of a championship, and I think it's less in basketball than it is in football, right? Like, does that make sense? When you're talking about
Yeah.
goats, you're expected to win more but Brady has skewed that. I think he's like, it used to be here where the NBA was here and you needed to win. Like, Kobe wasn't even in he's like, oh, until you win three in a row, like you're not in the GOAT conversation. Michael did that twice, right? So like there's like these requirements to like get in
Yeah.
that combo that require multiple championships. Whereas football, now skewed by Brady, I'm hoping that it comes back a little bit where we look at like, oh man, Mahomes like won a Super Bowl. He won two. That's a big deal. But yeah, I don't know. Legacy talk is always fun, but I think the only guy I'd throw in there, who I've just seen it has a chance, and we'll have to see how things play out with his team, right? Because it's such a team sport. But Burrow, I think, he's shown the ability to. I mean, if he can beat Mahomes, right, which he did. He did lose though in the big game, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we're talking about Jalen Hurts, right? They keep this roster together. We don't know what's going to happen, right? But
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of, I think at this point, anytime if Mahomes is going to catch him, he needs to win this year's MVP, right? Like if he's in the combo, he needs the hardware. But we can move on. We could talk about the AFC Championship. Like we got there from me saying the Eagles looked unbeatable still. So not sure, that was quite the tangent. But
Yeah. No, I mean,
I mean, I guess any final pieces, say your goodbyes, whatever you want. Tom Brady retired
no,
this
'cause
week.
we'll
I
probably
mean,
see him again. It's just how he is.
I think he's done, man. I think this
Yeah,
is.
we'll see. That was a very short or not apology.
I
Short
think he had a
speech. It was like
miserable
45
season.
seconds.
I think he had a
No, it
miserable
was miserable.
season. Like
It
I
was,
think
but
he literally was like, I shouldn't have come back. He got to like week like 6, and he was like, why did I do this? I should have retired. Like I feel like that's what he was thinking.
that's possible. That's possible. I just think he probably is like a couple weeks in, he's chilling. He's like, yeah. I could probably play again. And then somebody's gonna get hurt for like a contender, and it's gonna start. Somebody's gonna, a team or probably a handful is gonna call him during the season. Just give him a holler.
That's,
I don't know
I
if
mean, I
it's gonna
wouldn't put
come
it
out for
past
certain
them, but
teams,
like,
but
yeah, I don't disagree. I don't know. And like it's like we used to talk about Brett Favre in that GOAT conversation too. Like this is circling back, but he's another guy who got one. And people used to say he was top five.
yeah, maybe top five. He was never my goat. No offense to
I don't
Favre,
think he
but
I don't think he ever got to one, but he definitely was like in that like
bro, he had so many game just wrenching picks
oh
that
well, I think that ended
like
up yeah, his that
if
ended up
he
being
honestly,
nasty.
it's so hard like to say it, but if he just like took care of the ball any bit better than he did, Packers probably have more Super Bowls, but
I'm sure the
that's okay.
Vikings get one too. I mean, there's like,
Yeah, yeah.
like it wasn't just the Pack. I mean, it was the Packers for a long time, but AFC Championship title. What's your? I'll let you go first. Your takeaway. I've cooled down. I was very upset after immediately watching the game, but go ahead.
It kind of falls in the NBA category here of like refing is a problem. I would say, what's the word here? Because I was like, well, maybe social media is a part of the problem, right? Like we're always talking about it, scrutinizing it, but social media has been around. We're all watching the same game on the same television, and it's felt really bad this year. I'm just gonna be brutally honest. There's calls that shouldn't be made, and they are. There's calls that are swinging the momentum, and they're pretty ticky tack. I've had whole conversations with this at guys at work with like, it's football. We don't want this turning into the NBA where there's a lot of like phantom calls and you just kind of drive to the rim and expect fouls half the time. Like, I want 5, 6 penalties per team, like a game, like a
Yeah,
couple flags, like in a half. I don't want to see like multiple flags in a row or on a drive. Like it's so hard to watch. And I even think back to like our heyday, all right, of playing. The amount of times, and I'm not saying I was anything good. I was not. I was garbage. But the amount of times I was getting like held, but like it doesn't matter
oh
because
yeah.
it's a
I
high
mean,
school game. But
holding.
in the same
Everybody knows that holding happens on every
every
single snap.
single play, every
It
single play.
yeah
But it just happens to get called out in like the craziest, or a lot of people are saying the NFL is rigged, like the opportune moments, the momentum changing times.
yeah
That, oh, this guy just ripped off a big run. Oh, it's coming back. And that's where I just get frustrated because you're right. If I went and watched the film of that game, I could probably find a guy that held on every single play.
yeah.
But who cares? Like it's football. These are dudes that are 330 pounds. If they grab a little bit, like it is what it is. That's why you have the whole hand fighting thing, man. I get there's some blatant runs. If you're like throwing guys down, or it becomes a safety issue, sure. But I,
No, I
I
mean,
just
there's definitely times to call holding, right? When like he takes him to the ground or his hands are too wide. Like I'm not, I'm not
like
saying
bet
that he
like
shouldn't have. Yeah, like when
like
he's bear hugging the guy, like,
right like so like, where it's
but
obvious.
and like, look, I don't believe the NFL is rigged. I'm not Arian Foster, okay? Um, it's they don't get a script at the beginning of every year. But look, and you brought up the NBA. Look, the NFL is partnered with all of these gambling sites now, right? And you got to think what benefits them more. Mahomes in the Super Bowl, Burrow. Honestly, I think it's pretty even. I don't really think that this
I
game
yeah,
was
that I
rigged.
didn't understand that. Yeah, I
I
was
don't
like,
really
I
think
don't
this game was like rigged, other than maybe the Kelsey Bowl. But the reality is like the NFL is not going to like blatantly do this scandal and rig their own games. But what could happen is exactly what happened in the NBA when there was a ref who was getting paid to throw games. Like this,
yeah.
this happened. Like this is not impossible, and people forget about. I didn't even know about it until Netflix made that documentary. The NFL or the NBA, credit to them, did a really good job of sweeping that under the rug because I
Mm-hmm.
had never heard about it until the Netflix documentary. And when I
Yeah.
watched that thing, I was like, "Holy crap! Like this could be happening in every single game, and nobody would know."
Yeah, every single
Right?
sport, yeah.
So when it comes to this game, man, the third and the Phantom, the second, the third and or the second, third and nine, I guess is how I
Yeah.
want to say it. That was pretty bad, especially when they have the guts to call a garbage. This was a bad call. The garbage hold on Eli Apple right after it. Right. If the here's what I always say: if the refs make a mistake, they tried to stop the play like they said they did, and before, and like, okay, we're gonna redo the down, right? Like the clock was off, right? We're gonna redo the down. Then they redo the down. Ball don't lie. You get a sack like that, right? And Mahomes goes
There they
down.
go.
They're gonna
Yeah.
punt again. No, then they call a phantom, and it's like, okay, well, and I always say, like, let's give them a chance. They could right, like a defensive hands to the face, or Eli Apple could have just been mugging this guy, right? It's like
Yeah.
it could be a really bad penalty, guys. Like penalties do happen, right? No, they show the replay and it's just like, oh, you can't tug right there, and it's like, dude, that
Come
happens
on.
on every single route.
Yeah.
Like I played DB in college, man. Like and I'm always gonna side with the defense, but I also played receiver in high school, so like I feel like I have a decent perspective on both sides. Um, and I do tend to lean towards the defense because they always get the short end of the stick, but that was horrible.
Oh yeah.
The same thing with Burrow's random intentional grounding. It's like there wasn't a receiver in the vicinity, and Samaje Perine is standing right there. I don't understand. To this day, I don't get that one, especially when people on Twitter are pulling the clip of Mahomes the very next drive doing the exact same thing.
Same thing.
And it doesn't get called. Now, with that being said, all that being said, um, look, the game wasn't rigged, and I want to say this so it makes sense. The Bengals got gypped, but the Chiefs definitely still deserve to win. I think both teams deserve to win. And that's like where I'm like both teams played a really good game. The Bengals, yeah, they got gypped, and I think they really got screwed. I, as a fan, don't want to see a game decided by a late hit that may or may not have been a flop. Who knows? Like, I just don't let it be a late hit, man. Don't make that call, right? I think it was a late hit. I think they have to make that call. But the problem is the stuff leading up to it that people get upset about. And then I just don't want to see that. Like I don't want to see them get 15 yards and then get to kick a 45-yard field goal on a non-windy day, go right down, and then the game's over. And then my bigger issue was that this is like the Chiefs after the game. You know what they reminded me of? They were so like cocky and arrogant. They reminded me of, what was that guy's name? Golden Tate in the post game interview after the immaculate, or what was the fail Mary, what we called it. And he was like, "Oh, you just gotta believe, man. Like, I just went up for it. I got it.
Okay.
Like, this
Well,
team fights
that
so
okay.
hard." Yeah, like and he looks like the biggest idiot because we're all like, "What are you talking about? You didn't even catch the ball, right?" If he gets in the interview, he's like, "Yeah, I thought I caught it, but it was a close call. Good game. We'll move forward on to Cincinnati, as Belichick would say, right? If that's what Golden Tate says, like I don't have an issue. That's how I felt about the Chiefs after this game. It was like, dude, you guys just got out of there with your lives. You've beaten this team once in the last 4 times. You
Oh,
barely beat them again at home, and you guys are running around like. And this is partially a part of my Eagles Super Bowl pick. I think that was the Chiefs Super Bowl. They were so amped to play the Bengals, and I think they're, I don't know.
we'll see. They were amped up really because of what the Bengals were doing.
Oh, the
Calling
Bengals
it,
are not
calling
innocent.
it,
Let me say that. I should
calling
add
it
that in too.
Burrowhead, getting your mayor in on the
Yes,
whole thing. Like,
yes. The Bengals are
I'm
not
sorry.
innocent
I
at
love
all.
Kelsey's like end of the like, shut your mouth, you jabroni. That was
Oh, it's
great.
funny. Don't get me
Quoting The
wrong. It's
Rock, like,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it was kind of like sweet justice in that aspect of like the Bengals talking, calling another team stadium theirs. Like, yeah, the Chiefs are going to come out and kind of take it really personal. Uh, but I do see where you're coming from in the sense like, it wasn't like they won 31-7. It was
Oh, yeah. And dude,
skeptical.
even if they, it's just because they get really the problem for me is that they got that field goal because of the penalty. If they
Right.
had
They
just
got
chucked
so
a Hail
scraped
Mary and
by.
scored, it would have been like, oh yeah, like they won the
That was
game. But it
awesome.
just doesn't feel like the Chiefs earned the win, but they deserve to win. Like they played good enough to win. but they didn't.
Yeah.
They kind of got
It wasn't a cool way to win. I
yeah,
know what you're
yeah.
saying. Like they could have, yeah. No,
And
I'm
here,
with you
I
on
said it
that.
in the NBA too. I'm all for rivalries, man. I love that kind of stuff. I love
Oh yeah.
Cancun on three, talking trash, like the whole like I'm here
No, we
for
need
it.
more of
You
that,
know, I
man.
was yes, we do. And am I a little salty? I was pulling for the Bengals because I picked them. Yeah, obviously. Do I really? You know, if it was the Packers, I'd be a lot more salty, right? I was.
Yeah.
We don't need to bring up what's his face's name, but you know, in terms of handing away conference championship games, but
Yeah, there's plenty.
yeah, you know, I just would have, as a fan of football, I wanted to see a good ending. Like I wanted, you know, and I just felt robbed. It was such a great game for 3.5 quarters, just or maybe 3 quarters, and it just felt like at the end it was like, yeah, let's get the Chiefs there. You know,
That's a fair take. And I think you say that I believe the NFL didn't rig it. I'm actually not going to go as far as say that some part of this game wasn't rigged after seeing all the NBA stuff, man. I'm going to be honest with you because
no,
the
it's
more I
just
looked
always a
into it,
possibility.
well, and it's a major possibility with this fact. Those refs don't work for the NFL. Like they work for the NFL, but they're not full-time officials. They're not like under contract by they can do other things.
Yeah,
And
and I think
I probably
I
am
think
assuming they get paid a hefty amount, but
I
I
think
guarantee you
that's
there's
the
betters that can
ultimate.
pay more.
I think that's the ultimate. Like that's going to be the next step because the NBA refs, ironically, are employed by the NBA, and
Yeah,
you know they were still that was still happening, which you know we
right.
don't know what's going on. You never know what's going on,
Oh
but
yeah, I just think it
that
makes
would be
NFL
if I
refs
was the
easier to
NFL,
reach.
like the bottom of the line, right? Is this game was poorly officiated. That's the at the very least, every fan of every team has to. The game was poorly officiated. There were multiple playoff games that were. Um, and you don't want that on the biggest stage from the NFL.
Yeah.
So I think full time referees, I think that that's the logical step forward if they're going to solve this issue. I don't think they're going to do anything about it. I really don't. But if I,
Probably
you know,
not.
no, they probably won't. But you know, refs are part of the game. I am not a supporter of robotic refs and calling every single foul and every single flag on every single play because then we would never. It'd be like the NBA where there's 75 free throws a game. That's what it would be like,
Yeah.
right? Like let them
Yeah.
play, dude. Let them play a little. And the NFL does generally a pretty good job of that. I will also add this is not the worst conference championship rigged scenario I've seen. I don't think anything will ever top the Saints getting royally screwed. That is the worst missed call of all
Yeah,
time.
it was a bad missed call, but I will
They
say
did go to overtime. They had another
it
chance to
did
win the game.
yeah, and there was a lot more that like happened to the Bengals, I guess that makes sense. Like it wasn't just one play. It was
Yeah,
like there was a series of like, oh, okay, are you serious?
yeah, yeah,
But then again, a guy getting backed before the ball's even near is kind of
yes.
another "Are you serious?" Like it was right in front of that ref too. So yeah, I mean that's a really good point though.
I
That
mean, I'm pretty
happened
sure.
honestly a pretty good amount ago, and the ref situation still's changed. So
No, I
why should
mean,
we
what did
expect
they do?
more?
Remember, they changed the rule. They said that we're going to allow pass interference to be reviewed, and then they got rid of it after a year because it was stupid. Because no ref was ever going to overturn his pass interference call, which I think is the right choice. I think it slowed down the games when you were doing that, and
Right.
I think the logical solution is full time referees, and you just always have somebody in New York watching you play who can step in.
Yeah, buzz it in and be like, hey. Even the NBA could use that.
Yeah, I
But
mean, and that
yeah,
this is a weird, and this is a completely different, but that's golf has that. Golf
yeah.
will have people on the course who are just there for rules officials because golf has has some weird rules, man. Like
Oh, I bet.
you got to drop the ball here if you go in the water, all this other stuff. But they've got somebody on the field who is employed by the PGA Tour on the course who comes up and clarifies, and then what they say goes. So even if that person says it wrong, and they tell the player, "Oh, you need to drop the ball here," and then that player drops it there, and then like afterwards they're like, "Oh, you actually were supposed to drop it here, so we're going to penalize you a stroke." That can't happen if the rules official clarifies you should drop it here. Then the rules official gets punished and not the player. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why I think the NFL should find a way to. And the NBA, we can talk about NBA with me too, because I've got some, you know, you talk about the LeBron missed call and all that stuff. Like it's,
Yeah, we can get into that on Tuesday, but it's a universal issue. Really, I
yeah.
guess golf might be the only sport that has it right.
No, I mean they don't got it perfect. I'll say that because there's
Hey,
stupid rules in golf too that are get taken advantage of and all this other stuff. But
fair
yeah,
point.
bottom line is I felt like both teams deserve to win, and I got we as fans got robbed of seeing who earned the win. That's the way I'll
No
put
doubt.
it.
No doubt. Glad you brought up the Saints though, because I mean, there's a pretty big move with the Sean Payton guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just curious on your thoughts because we both are not, you know, high on the Ricky Williams trade. Like I think a lot of people are kind of in that camp of I don't know, trading a whole draft is pretty ludicrous. How bad is it when you trade your first, second, and thirds for the next 2 years for Russ and a coach that didn't coach last year?
Um, yeah, I think they overpaid
Yeah,
for
I will say this
for
before because
Payton,
it's
but
that sounds like
I do
it.
want to say I won't be shocked if they come out and they look really good next year.
Yes, that was where I was going. Is they're gonna look better,
Yeah,
but was the price worth it? And you know what? If they go 12-5, 13-4, and go to the playoffs, it it very well might be because I think the position the Broncos were in was they kind of had to double down, like they had no kind of near future. But I'm just curious, man.
I
That's a lot of
respect it.
value.
That's a good way of putting about it. I hadn't thought about that. They're so screwed by Russ's contract that they are saying, okay,
Teams have to.
we're gonna pay whatever it costs to double down and get the best guy possible to help this guy. And I think that Sean Payton was the best coach on the market if he was going to come back into coaching. I would agree. I think he was.
Definitely.
And I think they got Vic Fangio, right, as the DC. I think,
Mm.
look, that defense is going to be great. You just got to figure out the offense. What was it, like 10 games this year? If they scored 18 points, they win.
Yeah,
It
and
was bad, man. Um, we've seen what Russ looks like with good coaching, and I'm just not going to be surprised if down the line we look back at the Nathaniel Hackett year the same way we look at Urban Meyer.
no
Right?
doubt.
Like
Yeah.
I'm just not. Russ got a lot of hate this year, and rightfully so. He did not play great, but I don't think he got any help from anybody on that staff in any way, shape, or form. That's
No,
that's.
it's funny. It was crazy, but the stats were true. He had a better season, and I understand Peyton Manning split time with Brock Osweiler, but it was Brock Osweiler the year
Hey
they won that
man,
Super Bowl, and
Brock was
hey,
good that
Brocktober is
year.
real. Yeah, and
Brocktober.
he was good, but in terms of like statistically, like he was better than Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl. Like he was in the reins for that playoff run, and I understand how good that defense was, but their defense was good last year. So it really might
Yeah.
be a coach away, and all of a sudden they're back in contention. But
I mean, you were
woof,
forgetting too. They
I
get
mean,
Javonte Williams back too. That was a big loss, bro. They pulled Latavius
it
Murray
was
off of practice squads and ran him
off the
for the rest of
Saints,
the
yeah.
year. Like that was a big loss. And then obviously Melvin Gordon, forgot how to hold a football. So,
Yeah,
um,
he just got cut, but no, that's a fair point.
they're gonna get that
I'm
guy back.
curious.
I mean, do they even have a pick this year though? It's,
Well, that was what I was getting into is that they don't have picks, right? And now the Saints pretty much capitalized on the Broncos' desperation because
I
now they just
love this
got
move for the Saints. I mean, what the Saints just got a first and a second out of a guy who wasn't even
for
coaching
free.
for
For free.
him.
Yeah, they literally
Yeah,
just got picks for free.
I
And
just,
I feel like people don't like acknowledge like, oh, that's no, like from the yeah, it helps the Broncos. But this was like a clear overpay, man. Like it was clear as day. The Broncos were
I think you're right
desperate,
though. I
and the
think they
Saints
had
were
to.
like, how about you give us this? Just like as a joke. And the Broncos were like, yeah, we'll do it. And that's what that
I
like
think
us
you're right.
first, second,
I
and
think
third
they
for a
had to.
coach.
I think they had to though. I genuinely, they're
They're
so
bad
screwed
ads,
over
man.
by the Russ contract. I think they had to. I have to agree with that.
It's just
Um,
tough. And
I
even
just,
now, because we bring
yeah,
up his contract, they're salary cap strapped.
Yeah, they are. And here's the real question,
So how do
and
you
I
make
think you've got the
improvements?
answer, right? They've got the defense for sure, but
Mhm.
are they coming out of the AFC?
That's a very like, do
Are
they
they
do that?
with
How do they
Russell
improve
Wilson?
anything?
With Russell Wilson, are they beating Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen,
Even
Justin
Justin
Herbert?
Herbert? Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I don't.
Jags.
The
Like
Trevor
even that.
Lawrence. Yeah, I mean,
Like they double down, but oh boy,
look,
like
defense
you
wins
phew.
championships even more so in football than in basketball. But you know, I don't know if they've got the legs. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they come out, they look like the Eagles, right? Maybe they just have a great, they have that season. Then we're talking about Russell Wilson in the two Super Bowl conversation. Oh God, please help
Yeah,
me.
crazier things have happened.
You want
That's
to
all.
talk about Russell Wilson is like what Brady. I think his career is what Brady would look like if he was anywhere else. Like that's like, oh, he wins one, loses another at the, makes a
Perhaps.
mistake, I guess. But yeah, that
Yeah.
I've never been that keen on Russell Wilson's game. Never been
That's
that
fair,
high.
man. He really was kind of just really good. And like people, I think people have this idea that he was like ascending and still getting better as a quarterback when he kind of like leveled out in like 2013, 14. You know, like he
I'd give
built
him
up
like
this persona
16.
of
I'd give him
like,
like 2016. But like, yeah, when he left Seattle, he was like in this conversation of like top seven. And I
yeah,
did not think that was the
I
case in
see it.
2020.
Yeah,
Yeah, like he struggled his last year in Seattle.
right. No,
You know,
especially down the stretch. Yeah. I don't know, man. Well, we'll see. I really am curious as to, I mean, Sean Payton can make a lot of things work. I
yeah.
love
Let me
Taysom
ask
Hill,
you.
but he,
Let me ask you this: Is Sean Payton? We agree he's not worth the price. We agree he was the best
no
quarterback
coach
on the
is.
market, but is he or best coach on the market? Is he that good? Like he only won one Super Bowl. I know the Saints were good for that long, but he had
Right.
Drew Brees, right? So I guess I'll
There's
ask you the
times that team
question:
went
like,
7-9. There
yeah,
was teams.
who's your comparison, coaching comparison for Sean Payton? I've seen people throw out like Mike McCarthy. I think he's a better coach than Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, because I was because Sean Payton ran good offenses consistently all the time, and so I'm basically just trying to, you know, just fresh my mind of coaches that were like really good as offensive guys, but
Yeah,
like defensively, like, and that's what I think is the glory of this move is they didn't need any help on defense, so he can just leave it untouched.
yeah,
That's where he should be really focusing all his energy, anyways, is the offense. But man, uh, he's bringing up the Mike McCarthy comparison. Can you imagine if the Cowboys like traded a first, second, and third for Mike McCarthy? Like the amount of memes and stuff that would go around. Like, I,
yeah,
and I'm not saying Sean Payton is Mike McCarthy, but if there's a case to be made, there's a case to be made. Like in terms of like Super Bowls, so I think he's above him, but not like crazy above that. He's worth that price. Even Bill Belichick, if I trade a first round for, it's like, man, like we really hope our team's good, and we like you have to hit on it. Like you're going in for
yeah.
that
I mean, the
reason.
only guy I can think of who ever got this high of an asking price as a coach was Gruden, and the Bucks got a Super
Man, you
Bowl
see
out of him.
all that. That's true, but even when he was coaching the Raiders, like you see how that ended. I understand
Wow, that
there's
doesn't look
dirt
like
on
good.
anybody, but even before that, like the Raiders were not a good team. They
Uh,
actually finished better with Rich Bisaccia, who's the Packers special teams coach now.
that's true.
Like that's where oh, man, it's almost like the Brock Purdy thing again. Like there's like two ends of the spectrum here. Like Sean Payton isn't going to make this team amazing, but they're also like
They're definitely going to
not.
be better. We can
They're
both
going to
agree
be
they're going to be
improved. They're
better.
not going to be a joke.
No,
So
dude, they
this
weren't a
did
joke.
something.
Let's be
It's
real. They
just
weren't a joke this year. That defense was so good. Their offense was the
the
jokiest
offense
of
was a
all
comedy
jokes,
club.
man. I
Yeah,
mean,
that
like their offense was like watching grown-ups for the first time in like sixth grade. Like that's what their
Pretty
offense was. It's
much. Yeah.
experiencing that. Like that's the only funny movie I can think of. It's probably funnier out there, but like as funny as you
Nah,
thought
Kevin James and
Spaceballs
Melvin
was
Gordon.
when you
Yeah.
were 10 years old, right? Like that was their offense.
Oh, jeez.
Um, I
Yeah,
can't think
no,
of
that
anything,
was.
but you get my point. Like they're there. They're we said like you talk about, and the thing is too, they have a good receiving core. They have a good young running back. It's the quarterback and a coach, and I think they got a guy who's shown he's capable of being at least what Purdy was. And we had that discussion about being in the
Oh yeah.
perfect situation, right? What would Brock Purdy look like on the Broncos next year? Maybe that's who makes the trade. It's what do they have left to give? I guess, but
Yeah, honestly.
yeah,
It's their take. The more conversations we've had, the more and more, it's such a basic quote. Football's a team game. But like it really is. Like there's so many
yeah,
variable factors between, because we'll talk like NBA, and it's sometimes such different conversations, and you can do a lot of head-to-head comparisons with NBA players. NFL guys, there's so much context. Who's your
there is.
offensive line? Who's your running game? Who's your coach?
Coaching
Who's your play
coaching
caller?
matters so much in the NFL, man. And if this year's not vindicative of it, look at the Jaguars, whose roster was the same except for Christian Kirk. Look at the
Yep.
Giants,
The
right?
Giants
The
rosters
Jets,
honestly arguably worse.
yeah,
I would
the
say.
Jets.
Hmm.
Look at the jump that the Packers made when LaFleur came. None of the roster changed. They jumped to
Yeah.
three straight 13-win season. Look at McVay, what he did for the Rams, right? I keep going to look at the Bucks fall off with a poor coach, right? There's the other side of it.
Yeah.
Coaching matters way more in the NFL than any other sport. I think coaching matters in basketball. But when you got a guy like LeBron, Jordan, Kobe, they literally are the coach at some point. So it's
Yeah.
like,
What are you gonna tell those guys? They
I
already
guess
know.
two of those guys were coached by the same guy. So maybe that's, Phil Jackson might actually be the exception. But you get my point,
Yeah,
man.
that's fair. That's fair.
LeBron has been a coach and has been very successful leading teams deep in the playoffs, basically as the coach. Ty Lue, I think, doesn't get enough credit, but you get my point. He took David Blatt to the finals, man. Like that's all I need to say. But
Wow. Yeah.
yeah,
Moving
there's a
off the
there's a
face of the
throwback.
earth.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
But yeah, any other closing thoughts? I mean, we kind of gave our thought. D'Amico Ryan to the Texans. What do you think of that?
Cool.
I'm
Honestly,
surprised.
because
I'm surprised somebody took the job, man. that's.
I honestly might just be like blind loyalty because he was such a good linebacker
Well,
there
didn't
for
he
so many
sue
years.
them? I'm pretty sure
Maybe.
D'Amico Ryan sued the Texans. I gotta. Oh,
Okay, yeah. Maybe look into that one. I did not know that. That would be a
I
very
saw
funny
this.
wrench into this.
Uh, yeah, he did. He
Are you
did.
kidding me?
He
When?
sued them. Oh man, subscribe to the Houston Chronicle. Why would I be subscribed to that? 2016 lawsuit. Texans in the NFL were removed. Oh, he sued them, I guess, based on the fact that he sued them for uneven turf, and that's why he tore his Achilles.
Okay.
Which they
Yes.
reached a settlement with the companies that run the stadium and the turf company.
So like he didn't technically sue them directly, but hey, I guess I wouldn't
Well,
really make it.
he did sue the Texans, and then
Oh,
they were later dropped from the lawsuit, if that makes sense. Like they were proven, like the Texans, I guess, dished off their liability to this other company, would be my uh guess as to how it
yeah.
went. But it's still ironic. He sued the Texans and now he's the coach. So
Wow.
that shows how dysfunctional the Texans are.
Yeah, that's doesn't get worse than that, but like, yeah, who else would they have? I believe his deal is like 6 mil, sir, 6 years, like
I'm
that.
sure he'll make it. Let's see if he makes it to year two. Such a joke of a franchise. Like genuinely, I don't know why anybody would ever take that job. I would rather be a coordinator for the Niners next year than be the Texans head coach. Like
So
it's
fair. That's so
like
fair.
I'm sorry. Like what? How much of a pay increase really is it? Maybe it's a big one, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man.
We're kind of running
I hear you.
circles, but any closing thoughts before we close it off? We'll be back next week, obviously, for our Super Bowl preview. We've kind of already alluded to who our picks are going to be. And I should say, too, I forgot to say this. We're tied still. We are
Oh,
still
wow.
tied. We split the games this week um, for the NFC Championship. So 169 correct picks for the both of us, 114 wrong ones. Unreal. If I predict I'm going with the Eagles, unless my mind changes, well, the tie will be broken on Super Bowl Sunday, which is I never would have thought. And then as for
Well
frenzy,
said.
man, we had something happen this week that's never happened before. We tied in that too. We both scored 90.9 total points. I've never had a tie in fantasy football. We, I really, I'm stunned. I really am. Which means going into the Super Bowl, you are up. Well, I have 2,141 points, and you have 2,209. So that puts you up by roughly 70. So in case of a blowout, I don't think you can lose, but especially with the lack of players available. But we'll see. We'll see. But that'll conclude, Fantasy Frenzy for the year next week, and then obviously our game picks as well. So
Wow.
setting the record at 170 wins. See if somebody can break it next year. Whoever wins the Super Bowl, assuming we pick different teams. But yeah,
Right.
as always, guys, thanks for listening. We'll be back on either Tuesday or Wednesdays. We're trying to figure out a new schedule for you guys as we enter the off season. So sorry if the posting has been a little inconsistent. We will nail that down for the next week or two with Luke when he can go regularly for basketball, and then we'll set up our off season. We'll go twice a week. We'll continue doing that for football as well, talking off season stuff. So we'll nail that down by the end of next week. Figure out a good routine, and then we'll be set to go for the off season. But thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, the whole shebang. Post a lot of unique content on TikTok lately. So get involved, get in the discussion, talking legacy, certain players, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that being said, any final thoughts?
Oh, no, no, you said it best. And yeah, hopefully we can have a good Super Bowl, man. It's kind
That's
of the
that's that's
pinnacle of
always what I root
football.
for.
So
That's
as long as it doesn't stink and we can still play it in the fourth quarter, that's all I can really ask for.
yeah, well said. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Take care.